President Trump is threatening to sue his former chief strategist, Steve Bannon, for criticizing the president and his family. In excerpts from an explosive new book, Fire and Fury, Bannon calls a June 2016 campaign meeting with a Russian source at Trump Tower treasonous and unpatriotic. He suggests special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into potential collusion with Russia during the campaign is all about money laundering. The president hits back in a statement saying, quote, Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency.
And this morning, the digital news site Axios reports Bannon told friends he would run for president in 2 years if Mr. Trump does not. Bannon said this knowing the book would include his argument the Mueller probe could topple the president. Mike Allen, co-founder and executive editor of Axios, joins us from Washington. He interviewed Steve Bannon last week. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
So lawsuits, statements, a lot of back and forth between the White House and Steve Bannon, or at least from the White House. How problematic is this book for the Trump administration?
Well, we can see in their reaction that the fury now is by the president. I'm told that yesterday in the West Wing, people tried to avoid the president, sort of the way you stay away from your dad when he's had it. He was so angry about this book. And what did he do? He called lawyers. He called his outside lawyers and said, what can we do? They have sent a cease and desist letter to Steve Bannon. As you mentioned at the top, they gave us a statement saying that legal action against Steve Bannon is imminent. And Axios is hearing that the president's lawyers may now go against the author, Michael Wolff.
But are there tapes of these conversations, Mike?
There are, and that's going to make it so hard for these people who have been captured with these embarrassing and revealing comments to now deny them. Now, a lot of these people thought that they were talking off the record, but what are they going to do now? We hear that Michael Wolff has dozens of hours of tapes of people from Trump world talking about him in a book that in the end gives a very unflattering portrait.
Now, former White House advisor Katie Walsh, who was Reince Priebus's #2 at the Republican National Committee, was quoted in the book as saying, working with the president was like trying to figure out what a child wants. I know that Ms. Walsh has denied that to Axios, but there are tapes of Ms. Walsh?
So I don't know if that particular statement, but yes, that we hear that Steve Bannon, Katie Walsh, the former deputy chief of staff, are among the people Michael Wolff taped. And on your air yesterday, we saw the White House saying that there was very little cooperation with Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff had unbelievable access. So we've been talking to him over many months. The White House says that he was formally cleared in to the White House less than 20 times, but for someone who's going into private areas of the White House, including the then chief of staff's office, Reince Priebus's office, that's a lot. And during those early days, we know how much confusion there was. Michael Wolff would sit in the White House lobby, and all of you have seen what the White House lobby is like. Everyone comes and goes through there. And if you're sitting there waiting for an appointment, you can catch up with a lot of people. Michael Wolff would get dope from people walking through, and then sometimes they would walk across the park and meet him at the Adams Hotel.
And yet, Mike, despite all these Bannon comments in the book now, Bannon says last night that he still supports President Trump and he called him a great man. So what are we to make of the damage control that Steve Bannon is doing right now?
Yeah, well, good luck convincing the president that this is divorce. This is a severing of the ties. The White House knew that this book would probably be bad, but they had no idea that Steve Bannon would say the things that he does. But as you mentioned at the top, Steve Bannon has a comeback plan. So since he left the White House, he's been traveling the world, traveling the country, building his own name ID, building his own base. And Steve has told friends that if the president doesn't run, so there's no suggestion he would challenge the president, but if the president doesn't run, and there's a big field of Republicans in 2020, that Steve Bannon would love to jump into that. Now, where Steve Bannon was probably kidding himself was he also told friends that if the president ran again, Bannon would like to run the campaign. Well, good luck with that. Hard to see Steve Bannon back in Trump Tower.
Yeah, I think the divorce is final. Mike Allen, thank you so much.
Have a great day.